Hey guys, we're back here for another part in this series. Today we're gonna continue with the snake lamp, and yeah, let's just get to it. Remember, just quick note: every single video we're gonna have our stuff down here, like in the comments, all of our premium courses. If you guys like the channel, like the content that we're uploading, please support us. It really helps us when you guys get some of the courses. It's one way in which we can fund all of this and have a lot of fun as well. So, by the way, sneak peek, we're gonna have our reading course very soon. Very soon. It's in the final stages now, and probably gonna have some interesting videos in this week. So keep yourself posted. Make sure to subscribe. Click the little bell so that you get your notifications, and let's go. So I'm gonna set the project. First things first, as always, just making sure that we're working on the right project. And in the last video, you might remember that we actually exported the what's the word? The textures. So all of the textures have been exported. Now, we're gonna do this in two parts. In this video, we're gonna work on just a basic presentation render. Again, our 3-point light, just a basic HDR, just to make sure that our materials are exactly the way we want. And then in the next one, we're gonna do a cinematic render where things are gonna look a lot nicer. So let's do it. It's actually very easy, but sometimes material setup can be a little bit tricky for you guys. And UDIMs, again, get especially confusing. So again, if we navigate here real quick to our source images, we have all of these files, all of the elements. Let's view this as a list. And you can see that the important thing about this, especially here on the metal, is the fact that we have .1001, 002, 003, 004. That's the UDIMs, and this information is the one that we're going to be using. Now, from the glass right here, we're actually not going to be using anything but the base color. So I'm not going to delete it just in case, but I'm thinking we're just going to be using this because we only need the mask, okay? So I'm going to grab the whole object here, and we already have the metal set up, the object here. However, this metal, as you can see here, is just a basic Lambert material. So I'm going to show you one thing that I learned recently. I think I've already showed it before, but in the substance thing, when you, of course, go into settings and preferences, plugin manager, substance, and you, substance, oh my god, there we go. You load everything. There's this little button right here, which is very cool, which allows you, this one right here, which is called Apply Workflow. It allows you to connect everything like instantly. You're not gonna have to do any sort of connection. It's just gonna find exactly the maps that you're going for, and then it's just gonna do it. So I'm just gonna go here, select multiple maps, go into our source images, snake lamp, and I'm gonna select the first one of the metals. So metal, roughness, base color, height, oh well, not height, normal, and that's it. Just those four ones, and I'm gonna hit select. So as you can see, things are going where they're supposed to be going. So base color, normal, roughness, we're missing the metalness. So I'm just gonna manually select the metalness. There we go. And I'm gonna create this for an ARNOLD workflow. I'm just gonna hit apply. And now, if we go into our Hypershade, you're gonna see that we have this very nice standard surface 1, AI standard surface 1, with everything set up exactly the way we want. So we have the out color, this multiply divide, which in case we had ambient occlusion, we would get the ambient occlusion here. We have our normal map, which is already set to raw. Everything is connected to a single place to texture, which if we want to tile the texture later on, we can do very easily. The metalness is set to raw. The roughness is set to raw. We're getting exactly the things that we need. So everything should be set up exactly the way we need in this AI standard surface. So I'm just going to call this a snake lamp metal. And this is actually a huge time saver. I strongly advise, or one of my biggest advices would be, make sure you understand what's going on here before doing it automatically. Every time you use an automatic tool in any software, what you're saying is, computer, do whatever you need to do to get things done. But then you, as a human, you don't really know what's going on. And I personally find that to be lacking, right? Like, it's always good when you, as the artist, know what's going on, so that if something breaks, you know how to fix it. Otherwise, it gets very complicated. So make sure you know how to do this manually, and then just use the shortcut, which is great. One thing that we're missing here, though, is the UDIM setup, which we don't have, but it's very easy to set up. I'm going to go to the base color, and I'm going to change the UV tiling mode from off to UDIM Mari. And you can see that it automatically finds 5 tiles. Now, I don't want to preview them at high quality, not necessary. I'm just going to preview them at low quality, and I'm going to generate a preview. I'm going to go to my normal map, do the same thing, change this to UDIM, and change this to low quality. And the reason we want to do low quality is it's a lot of texture, so I don't really want to see everything like super high def on my viewport when I'm just going to see it on the render at the end, right? So just here, generate preview, roughness, a UDIM 1K, and generate preview. And there we go. Now, of course, we need to select all of the metal parts of that character. Right click, assign existing material, snake like metal. And if we press number 6, you're gonna see that we have this thing right here. Let's change this to Unity neutral tone. Might not look exactly like I'm expecting it to. Could be the UDIM files, which sometimes it sometimes messes it up. That's fine. I can actually see the colors there. It's a little bit difficult to see, but let's get the render done. So I'm not going to delete this image because I do want to use it as a reference for the cinematic render that we're going to be doing. We're going to try to match this sort of effect. And I'm just going to go here into create polygon primitives. We're going to do a plane. We've done this 100 times. Just our traditional like infinite background here. There we go. Let's expand it a little bit and expand it over here. There we go. We need a shot cam, definitely. So I'm going to go rendering, camera, panels, look through selected. And let's find a nice here. I'm actually going to change this. I usually don't do a square formats for the YouTube series because we tend to use the full HD like setup, but let's do 1K square. There we go. The image plane or this thing, I'm just gonna rotate. There we go, so that we don't see anything else there. And we're gonna go Arnold lights, a basic sky dome light. You know the drill. We're just gonna import a file here to help us with the basic setup. Let's use this decor shop. And I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna file, increment, and save because UDIMs are a little bit heavy, so your computer might struggle a little bit at first. I'm actually gonna change this to GPU as well to help myself with the options. I'm gonna go render and let's pray. Let's pray that this works. Now, what's gonna happen here? Maya is gonna go through all of the UDIM textures. It's gonna convert them to the appropriate texture, and it's gonna apply them to our element. And what I expect to see, and which we're pretty much seeing right here, is the exact same colors that we have inside of Substance. Now you might say, isn't this a little bit too glossy in certain areas? If it's too glossy, then that means that the Substance file was too glossy, which I'm not like against this. I think it looks okay and it looks nice. Of course, cleaning up the noise and everything will definitely help. I do want to check something real quick because sometimes the connections might be a little bit wrong. So I'm going to go to the roughness here. Yeah, so you can see here that the roughness is actually outputting the alpha channel into the specular roughness. That's usually not what we want because the roughness is a normal like color map. So I'm just going to grab the arc color from the specular roughness and I'm going to go there. I'm going to click this button down here, which is like a photograph. And I'm going to save this just to see the difference and see if it's really changing or not. Doesn't seem to be changing that much. No, then that means that our roughness or the roughness that we have here is actually coming from Substance, which again is fine. I mean, I like this shiny effect. If we want to, we just need to go back into Substance, reduce the shininess a little bit, and it will be good to go. But I think this is kind of realistic. Like metal usually is not that dull in real life unless it's very, very old. And I want this to be like in a museum or something. So now let's do a little bit of light setup here. I am going to go to my perspective view. I'm going to lower no, I'm actually going to keep the exposure there. I'm going to go Arnold, lights, area light, and let's do like a museum effect, right? So we're going to have a light coming from the top. You know, when the museums, they have like this glass things where they just like have little very small spotlights. So we're going to have something like that. One cool thing that we can do here, probably saw this in a couple of other videos, but the spread on this is one of the things that I always struggle with lighting, is sometimes you want your lights to have a very soft effect, and sometimes you want the shadow to be very hard. So right now, as you can see, there's no shadow actually, so I need to definitely increase the exposure. Let's go to like a 10. Let's go to like 15. There we go. So that's very intense, but it's better. Let's say like 13. There we go. So the problem right here is that this light, as you can see, it's very soft. It's like a light box that is just giving light everywhere, which for characters is very good sometimes because you don't get like this super harsh shadows. But for objects, for like display purposes, you sometimes want like harder shadows. So in this case, by lowering the spread like really, really low. It's kind of like focusing the rays of light from the light, and you get this sort of like spotlight effect where the shadows are going to be really, really strong. The only problem with that is when you concentrate all of the light into a single point, the exposure is going to be way high. So you definitely want to bring this exposure back to like probably like a 9, maybe like an 8. There we go. So that we don't have like a super, super bright, I think 9 was fine, a super, super bright light. Now, I am going to use color temperature, and I'm going to push it a little bit towards the warm side, just a little bit, so that it's a little bit closer to the overall scene. I don't want to go like super warm to match the exact same element, but I don't want to go a little bit warmer just to get something there. Nice. Let's stop that right there. Let's go to our camera, panels, look to selected. Let's find our nice shot here. One cool thing we can do with the camera, remember, we can change the focal length. Right now we have 35, which is a very common focal length, but it's not so epic. If we want to go epic, 24, like a long focal length with a lot of distortion is really good. If we want to go a little bit more like professional photography, like a 55, which is going to keep it really straight, really flat towards the image, both of them work really well. I think for this one, that's going to be like a museum piece. 55 is going to look good. We're going to go up. Let's minimize this. Let's change this to camera shape 2. There we go. So look at this. Ain't this beautiful? Now that's a new one. Ain't this beautiful? It's looking really good, right? I think it's looking really good. I really like it. Look at the oil there, like really, really shiny. I love it. I love how this is looking. Now let's go for the glass. It's gonna be tricky. It's not tricky, but it's just a couple of extra steps that we need to take into consideration. By the way, I read some of your comments, guys, about me re-recording yesterday's video and re-uploading it. Don't worry, it's always a pleasure to receive those kind of comments, and I'm always doing this for you guys. So if you guys are learning and you guys are getting better at 3D, then I'm happy. I don't mind re-recording a couple of things here and there every now and then. So hopefully we don't get the same issue later on, but yeah, don't worry about it. So I'm going to go to this guy, and I'm going to assign a new material. I'm going to go to the ARNOLD options, and it's going to be a AI layer shader, which is one of the ones that we saw last week. If you haven't seen the video for layer shaders, check it down on the description or on the over there on the recommended videos. You're probably going to have the layer shader. Now this one we're going to call glass. And the input that we're going to have on this first channel is going to be, of course, an AI standard surface. And we're not going to have any sort of weight on the, on the material here. I'm going to go to transmission, and we're going to definitely have transmission. So transmission all the way to 1. If I render this, we automatically get glass, which looks very, very good. But there's a couple of things I want to do to make sure that this glass looks good. I actually think this looks perfect as is, because it's not super... It's not like crystal clear, so it looks very, very cool. It already looks like a realistic lamp, which is great. But there's a couple of things that I want to do. First of all, if we go down here to the ARNOLD renderer, there's a little option here in the ray depth that you need to take into account. And let me explain how this works. It's a little bit technical, but hopefully you guys will get a good information out of this. So you can see that right now we have a ray depth of 8 in transmission, meaning that if we had like a glass of water, let's say this is a cross section of a glass of water, and then we have our water here, right? And let's say we have a red sphere on the other side, and it's also a crystal red sphere with thickness, and then behind that we have, like, I don't know, pickle or something. If you take a render, when you shoot the rays from your camera, because we're using ray tracing, what's going to happen is the ray is going to calculate how many transmissive layers are there. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then we have a non-transmissive layer, which is the pickle. So this means that right now my transmission depth is not high enough to go through all of my objects, all of my transmissive objects, and get to the end result. The main thing that you're gonna see when this happens is if you have like several glass and water and like transmissive materials, and you start seeing black things, black shadows or black shading, that's probably because your transmission depth is not as high. Now, you definitely don't want to bring this transmission depth like all the way to like, I don't know, 32 just for the sake of it, but we can increase this like to 12 just to make sure that we're not getting any sort of like bad shading, and that's gonna just cover all of our bases. Now, I definitely want to make this a little bit glossier, so I'm going to go here into the specular roughness, and I'm going to lower it a little bit, because what we're seeing here as glossiness is actually the light that's bouncing off from the glass towards us again. So we have two things going on, the reflection of the glass and the refraction of the glass. It's two elements. We cannot just turn on the specular, because then it's just a transmissive thing, like a plastic, like a transparent plastic. If we want this to actually be glass, we're going to have things coming out towards us and things coming or going away from us. Another important thing, it is a little bit technical again, but you guys are super smart, so I know you can handle it. There's this thing called index of refraction. We've already talked about this before. And the index of refraction is the angle at which light gets bent when it hits a surface. These numbers are like scientifically proven. So these guys right here, these are like, again, measured by scientists with like very expensive like machines and stuff. And we know that glass is about 1.5, but take a closer look at that. It says about. It does not mean that it has to be 1.5. So if we bring the IOR lower, what's going to happen is it's going to start inverting the rays. Of course, if we go under 1, we're going to get this sort of like weird thing. But if we go to like a 1.3, which is like ice, what's going to happen is instead of bending the light as much, it's going to be a little bit straighter. If we leave this at 1, it's just straight through, like the light goes straight through. So if we go higher though, like a 3, it's gonna bend it quite a bit more like a diamond. Diamonds reflect light in a very nice way because they bounce and move the light in a very weird way. So you can see here now the shadows of the reflections from the handles, like the snake handles, we're seeing them through the element, and it gives a very interesting look. So feel free to experiment artistically with the index of refraction and see how much you want that specific glass to refract things. I think here, for instance, a number 2 is perfectly fine. It looks very nice, and we're in a good position. So now we're going to go to the second option, and I'm going to do something interesting here. I'm going to add a new material here to the whole thing. Assign new material. Let's do again, ARNOLD, a standard surface. I'm going to call this M dust. Now, if we play this, of course, we're no longer seeing the glass because we've replaced the glass with this new dust material. But I'm going to use this to calibrate the color of the dust and the roughness of the dust. So I'm going to increase the diffuse roughness so that it's a very dry material. I'm going to definitely increase the specular roughness. And on the color, I'm definitely going to go for like a sort of brownish, like dirtish color like this. Probably a little bit less saturated. And there you go. See that how that looks like actual dust? Now there's one more little thing that we can use here, which is the, I think it's the sheen. Yeah. So the sheen is gonna give this sort of like velvety look, which is very, very cool, and it follows to what dust usually does, which is this very fussy look. So by adding this, now we've created this very nice dust basic material in the element. We can go a little bit crazier though. Let's go into the color and let's add a noise layer. So you can see that the noise layer is now on top of the element here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the color balance. The default color is going to be this brown. And then the color gain is going to be this one as well. You can see how it's going over there. Let's stop it here. We can see it right here. And I'm going to start playing around with like the thresholds, the amplitudes, the variance, for instance, the ratio. See that? And the only reason why I want to do this is to break up the color. I don't want every single part of the mesh to be the exact same color. So I want to have a little bit of variation here and there, which you can see. It's not as noticeable, but it's there, and it's going to help. Now comes the magic part. Let's refocus this thing right here. We're going to go back to our Hypershade. Let's clean this up. Let's grab our layer shader here and bring it here. And you can see that this is the glass. So I'm just going to call this M lamp glass. Oh my god, I can't spell. Dude! There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to middle mouse and drag the new M dust material right here. I'm going to go into my layer shader, enable the second layer, and plug this into the input. I'm going to call this input dust. Now, the way we're going to be mixing this, of course, is with a texture map. So here on the mix, we're going to add a texture file. So we're just gonna go here for a Maya file texture, and we're gonna use the base color of the not the metal, the glass. So glass base color 1001, there we go, which is a black and white mask. There we go. Now careful here, this is a mask, so what we need is we're gonna break this, and we're just gonna connect like the red channel, which is the exact same thing. And here, of course, we're gonna change this to UDIM 1K, and I'm gonna change the color space to raw because it's a black and white image. I don't want any color managed here. Let's save this real quick. Let's go back to this guy and assign again the layer material, layer shader. There we go. And now what I'm expecting to see, hopefully it works, is when we render this, we're gonna have this. There we go. Look at that. So we're gonna have a dirty glass, and it's a dirty glass because we have two materials: the rust, or the what's the word? The dust. It's sitting on top of the glass, and it's giving me this very dirty look. Now, of course, the only problem, one of the problems that we have right here, is the fact that that the the samples are not as high as we would need for this to look cleaner. So I'm gonna go into my options here. I'm gonna turn on my adaptive sampling with a lot of samples. 20.015 should be fine. And you're gonna see how as this begins to clear, there's gonna be some areas of the glass that's gonna be very dirty, and then other areas of the glass that's not gonna be as dirty. And that's it, guys. With this, we have our very nice cinematic look for our object. Like, look at the amount of detail that we have here. Now, this is rendering at 1K, and 1K, of course, is going to be a little bit low in resolution. So let me go back to my options here. I'm going to change this to Full HD. And let's, like, create the little thumbnail that you're going to see in YouTube, or that you're seeing in YouTube. Because if you're seeing this video, this means this is already up. And let's hit render. We're gonna have this very nice effect. Now, of course, I'm just doing this render for the YouTube channel because otherwise there's just like a lot of wasted space. I'm actually gonna do a close-up though. I think you guys are gonna appreciate this one a little bit more. So let's go there, and that's it. So this is the end. The asset is perfectly fine. The modeling is great. It has a lot of divisions. The textures are super high res, and as you can see, we have this very nice effect. Now we only need to do a cinematic render. We can do a cinematic render to showcase or give an idea to the public on how this thing is gonna look inside of an actual like scene. So we're gonna be doing this on the next video. I'm gonna stop this one right here. Make sure to leave a comment. Make sure to leave your likes, your shares, subscribe, do all of the things that you already know. We read all the comments. Sometimes I don't answer to all of them, but believe me, I read them all. And let us know also, what else do you want to see? What else would you like to learn in the next couple of days? We're starting a new month, so there's a lot of possibilities now. I think it would be nice to go back into ZBrush. We haven't done ZBrush in a while, so let me know. Do you want to do ZBrush, or do you want to do a little bit of animation maybe? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you back tomorrow. Bye-bye.